everyone, welcome back. My name is Andrea. I'm the Knitting PT, and this is my channel where I talk about all the things I love about fiber arts, all the things I'm knitting, crocheting, spinning, and yeah, it's been a while. I'm gonna be a little bit rusty because it's been several months since I last recorded. But I'm really excited to be back here sharing my projects with you, sharing about what I'm up to. Yeah, I've also decided that to take some of the pressure off of myself when it comes to recording, and I'm going to do more minimal editing. I already did somewhat minimal editing already, but I'm going to do probably even less just because, to be honest, editing takes a lot of work. I take a lot of pride in trying to edit well, but in the interest of just getting these videos out and not creating more roadblocks for myself, I'm just going to do very minimal editing from now on, and I hope that's okay with you. Yeah, I have been busy, but to be honest, I did feel like the end of 2024, my making took a little bit of a slowness. And part of it had to do with other things I had going on in my personal life. Life also got busy. We went on travels. Yeah, so it was just a lot of things. And you know what? That's okay. Life ebbs and flows, and our making can ebb and flow with that. But I'm starting to feel like my creative juices are flowing back again, and I am really excited to just be back in the space sharing with you what I am up to. Yeah, so I'm not going to go over everything that I've finished or been working on since October, which was the last time I recorded, but I'll be sharing with you things I recently finished and what I'm working on right now. So kind of just like our fresh start, if you will. So let's get started. Before we get started, I forgot to say that everything I'm going to be talking about will be linked in the description box below. Any designers, yarn dyers, makers, anything like that will all be linked down below, as well with links to my shop, my Ravelry, everything else you might need for any information you want. Yeah. Okay, so let's start off with what I'm wearing. So what I'm wearing, this is the Dromme dress by Woolfolk Yarns, and I've been working on this for quite a while. I want to say I'd been working on for close to a year. I finally finished it, and part of it is, as you'll see when I stand up, is I shortened it. So it is a boucle dress, but I'm going to stay on my chair so you can see I shortened it to be a tunic. Yeah. Honestly, I thought about it, and as cozy as a dress sounds, I probably wouldn't wear it as much as I would if it was tunic length. Now, I will say, I've worn this like once or twice now at this point. I would have lengthened it a little bit more so that it would cover like all of my butt maybe, instead of just like halfway. But I'm okay with it the way it is. If I feel like I really want more of that coverage, I'll probably it'll be really easy to undo my bind off pickup and just knit several more inches. The yarn for this is from Woolfolk. It is their Flet base, which is their boucle DK weight. This yarn and pattern was gifted to me last year as part of a, I don't know, it wasn't really a knit along, but Woolfolk reached out, asked if I would be interested in knitting the pattern in exchange for yarn and pattern. So yeah, otherwise, the other modifications I did were to shorten it, and I didn't knit the collar as long. The collar is written to be knit 5 inches. I believe I knit like 3 or maybe 4 inches. I just didn't want it as long, and I think this length is fairly good. Yeah, sleeves are knit as is also. It is a kind of like an elbow length pattern so that you wear a shirt underneath. I do think if it was long sleeve, it would just feel too like frumpy and would feel too frumpy, like a paper bag kind of look. So this look is pretty good. It does have pockets, which are knit in a different base from Woolfolk. This is their, what is it? It's a fingering weight base. This is Woolfolk Tinned, which is a fingering weight base. I have to say, this is fingering weight, okay, and it is 100% merino, but it feels like there's cashmere in there. That's how fine the merino is and how soft. Yeah. I also did not knit the pockets as large, mostly because I knew they wouldn't be completely functional pockets for me anyway. Yeah, it does kind of sit weird sometimes, like the pockets do kind of poof out a little bit. I don't know if that would change if, like, you see that there? Yeah, I don't know if that would change if I knit it longer. I'm not really sure. Um, yeah, but I'm just choosing to not let it bother me. Yeah. So the colorway I used for mine, and Wolfolk does numbers. The colorway was 22 for both the fingering weight and the boucle DK base, which is like a brown color. So yeah, I would say, would I recommend this pattern? If you are up for a challenge in terms of a long-term project, like for me, it's not a hard project to do at all. Probably the hardest thing is just reading your knitting because, you know, boucle has a different look to it, so it can be harder to read your stitches. I just used a lot of stitch markers to mark where I was in the pattern. It's not a hard pattern at all. It's just, it takes a long time because you're knitting a lot, especially if you knit the dress version. Even if you don't knit the dress version, you know, you can see I have plenty of positive ease. Yeah, it's just a lot of knitting. Overall, I used about 8 skeins of yarn, and the Wolfolk Flex skeins come in 50 grams. So overall, it was like 400 grams. Which when you say it that way, doesn't sound like a lot. 400 grams and then 1 skein for the pockets. So yeah, but overall, I'm really happy it's done. It's really warm. Like today, it's like 20 degrees outside, 20 degrees Fahrenheit. Inside my office right now, it is 57 degrees. I didn't turn on the heat because the heater makes a really loud noise and it turns on and off quite often. And I didn't want to have to deal with editing that in my videos. But you know what? Wearing this with just a long sleeve underneath and some, I'm wearing some like fuzzy tights, I'm actually pretty warm. Like my hands are warm, which is kind of surprising, but like that just speaks to how warm the boucle yarn can be, and it's so lightweight too. Like it barely feels like I'm really wearing anything for wearing like a knit tunic. All right, on to other things I finished recently. I'm going to show you a few things, and one of them is a test knit I did for Aimee Sher. If you have watched me before, you know I test knit quite often for them. This is called the Relax Tee. It is a fingering weight tee. You can see it has these purl ridges, and it is a compound raglan, which means that there is a curve to the raglan shape. I don't know if you can see it quite well in this one, but it just means that it fits the curve of your shoulder a little better, so that eliminates a lot of the bulk that can happen in the underarm. So this tee is actually going to be for the Unwind retreat in March. I think it begins March 6th in Kansas City with the Unwind Yarn Shop. Both Aimee and I are going to the retreat and we're both teaching there. This tee is a release for the retreat, and then I believe it will be released to general public in mid-March. So I test knit this, and it is both a short sleeve version and a long sleeve version. I'll speak a little bit more about it after it is out for the general public. I just want to show you. The yarn I use for this is from Big Little Fiber Co. Big Little Yarn Co. Mel. She's based in Japan now. This is her merino linen base, which is 70% merino, 30% linen, I believe. I'm gonna check my stats here. So it's organic wool linen. Yes, 70% wool, 30% linen / flax. It is fingering weight. There's quite a lot of yardage that comes with it. It was 506 yards for 100 grams. And this colorway is called Matcha. This tee is super cute. It goes by pretty fast when you're knitting the body because you're just like, you want to get to the next purl ridge. So I felt like I knit fairly fast because it was just like, oh, I'm almost to the next purl ridge. And once you get a purl ridge, you're like, oh, just keep going. Yeah, I do think I want a long sleeve version because it's very comfortable. The fit of it, the drape of fingering weight sweaters is just... it's just different. It feels really nice on your body. So I do think eventually I want to do a long sleeve version of this too. Yeah, but be on the lookout for that coming soon. And yep, so that's one. And hopefully this will be my last test knit of the year. I know, I say this every year that I'm going to do less test knits. And actually last year I did do less test knits than previous years. This year I would like to do even less, partially because I have another large project, not like a knitting project per se, it's knitting adjacent, I have another larger project I'm working on this year, and I need to dedicate a lot of time to it, which means that it's less time for deadline knitting. The other thing too is, as I'm sure you can tell by the sheer curtains behind me, I have quite a lot of yarn, and I have a lot of projects planned for those yarns, and test knitting keeps getting in the way of me making those projects a reality. So this year I would like to be able to knit up some of my sweater quantities that I have reserved for certain patterns. Yeah, so that is partially why. I'm just feeling like I want to have more creative flow, more creative open-endedness. Like, I don't want to worry about deadlines getting in the way of me working on something else, and I want to be able to just cast on whenever I want to. Yeah, so I'm trying to lessen the deadlines on my creativity this year. Another thing I finished, and this is also for the Unwind retreat, is the Unwind shawl. This is a pattern by Tracy from the Grocery Girls. I was trying to remember her last name, but I couldn't. It is not a new pattern, but I believe Tracy might be doing like a refresh of it maybe for the retreat. Anyway, this yarn was sent to me by Moondrake Yarn Co. Rochelle reached out and asked me if I would want to knit one for the retreat, and she's knitting one too. So she very kindly sent me the yarn. This is in her Pika Pika base, which I absolutely love. I am so out of practice, I don't remember what everything is anymore. So it's Pika Pika. The colorways I use are Oatmeal, which is the taupey color, and then Sea Breeze, which is the slightly variegated, kind of creamy ocean sea foam green with some orangey, burnt orange in it. And Pika Pika is 60% wool, 20% silk, 20% rami, and the wool is merino. And it is fingering weight. I've used this base before. I knit my seagrass tank out of it, and it was really comfortable. I love this yarn too. It's super soft, very drapey. I did not block this yet, but it looks pretty good already. So as you can see, the shawl has eyelet details. There's different textures to it. There's some garter stitch areas, stripes to it, and a ribbed kind of hem, if you will. I really like it. Yeah. It's also really addicting to knit because you just want to get to the next section, you want to get to the next stripe, that kind of thing. This is the first shawl I've knit in like years. I used to knit nothing but shawls when I was first started knitting a lot. Partially because living in Texas, I felt like knitting accessories was the most useful. It was the products I would get the most use out of was shawls. And I've stepped away from shawl knitting for a few years, but I really loved knitting this up. It really reminded me how much I love knitting accessories. But yeah. So I'll be bringing this with me to the retreat also once I get it blocked. Yeah. All right. The last thing I want to share that I finished this at the end of 2024, but I want to share it because it'll give you a preview for what one of my works in progress will look like. So this is the Grid Gambit cowl by Samantha Guerin. So as you can see, it's a cowl. You knit it in one piece and then you seam the back. I didn't weave in my ends. I just tuck it in when I wear it. And the pattern is written mainly so you could use a skein of hand spun or a skein of like color changing yarn, variegated yarn, spin cycle with a solid contrast to have this beautiful kind of color play here. So I used my main color, which was this kind of grayish white, is from Woolberry Fiber Co. It's called Falling Softly. It's on her DK base. It was part of a winter box from last year. And then my CC is my own handspun. So this is my handspun from the Little Fiber Co. Patisserie Advent Countdown. It was like 8-day countdown that was for this year. I got it in my head that I wanted to spin it up and have it done and finish and knit with before I went on a trip in December. So in mid-December, my family and I went on a 2-week trip to Taiwan and Hong Kong to see our families. And I wanted to knit up this pattern during my trip. So I spun like a demon and finished my yarn and cast on in time to take it on my trip. And I knit the whole thing on my trip and finished it on my trip. Yeah, so it's got a lot of wonderful memories mixed into it. Little Fiber Co. Lauren has become a really good friend, and I adore her work. And as you all know, I love Sam Guerin and her designs as well. And so you can see there's this gentle fade going on. Well, not gentle, it kind of gets very, yeah. So yeah, so this is my first one. I'll show you what it looks like on. I've been wearing it a lot. Yeah, it's nice and snuggly. I love these kinds of cowls because it's perfect for putting on under a jacket. It could cover that area where your neck gets exposed, but it's not so bulky that you can't zip up your whole jacket. So yeah, I love these. I've been wearing this a lot. And that brings me to one of my works in progress. I'm knitting up another one. So the story behind this is that my hand spun yielded two like DK weight skeins, and they were kind of like not polar opposites, but just different color stories. So they were divided into two. So I decided I was going to make 2 grid Gambit cowls. So this is my second one. So this is my hand spun of the second part of the patisserie countdown. Apparently things do not want to focus today. There we go. I apologize if other things have been out of focus. I only just noticed now. So this is what my fiber current looks like. You can see it ends in kind of like a deep rosy red pink. And I am pairing it with Explorer Knits Drift, which is this really pretty periwinkle blue, I guess. I don't really know how to describe this. And then, so I just started this the other day. So together, these look like this. And I'm holding the Explorer Knits double because it is fingering weight. So you can see the beginnings of that grid starting to come out. Yeah. This pattern is also really fun to knit up, the Grid Gambit. And it's just like you just want to keep getting to the next section to see what it'll look like. So, yeah. The next project I am working on. This is called the Ribwave pullover. It is a pattern by Joanna Ng. I love this. I've been working on it like fairly slowly, but enjoying every moment of it. So here's what I got so far. This is the front. Look how pretty that is. And this is the back. Now it looks like the color's getting a little washed out with my lighting, but it is a very like minty blue green. Okay. And what I kind of love about this is the neckline. Like there's no picking up for a collar or anything, but it looks very neat and tidy, just the way she has you cast on the stitches. Yeah. So I'm really excited for this. The yarns I'm using are, one is Less Traveled Yarn, who is sadly no longer dying. Let me put my Ravelry so I can give you the appropriate Less Traveled Yarn, and this is in a fingering weight. And this color is called Frida. I'll hold it up here. You can see it's a minty blue, and it's got some pops of blue here and there. And I'm holding it with Veronita from Ching Fiber, which is their merino cashmere lace weight base. And this colorway is called Pistachio. You can see it's a very light bluish greenish color. And I just love the fabric that they make together. Yeah, this is it. This pattern is very like feminine, but I don't know, I don't usually go for ultra feminine things, but I feel like it's like feminine, but it's got like some, I don't want to say androgynous, I don't know how to describe it, but like the way the V comes in the middle and how it's ribbing, it's not like frills and ruffles. I'm not really a frills and ruffles person, but it's just like, it's just got a touch of femininity, but I really like it. The sleeves will also have this this cable detail going down the middle, which I can't wait to get to and show you all. So yeah, I'm about like 2 inches into the body now. So I've been just really enjoying this knit as it goes. Yeah, and hoping to make more progress. All right, another thing I'm working on is another project that I was gifted the yarn and the pattern for. So this is called, I'm trying to arrange it so it looks a little bit more presentable on camera. This is called the Tecla. It is from a book by Claudia Quintanilla, who's Unit 2. Unit 2? Yeah, on Instagram. Her shop in Toronto is called Unit and Craft. But this is the book. It's published by Lane. It's called Memory Lane. It's a really beautiful book. I'll show you what the pattern looks like. So they sent me the yarn for the pattern, and they also sent me the book, so thank you. And this is what it looks like. You can see it's like a slim-fitting pullover with textured sleeves. The ease on this is 0 to 2 inches, and the size I picked will give me about 1.5 inches of positive ease. And I am really enjoying this. This is slightly different from anything I've ever knit, I realized. Because it's not drop shoulder, it's not a raglan. I guess it's what you would probably call a satin shoulder, more so. So I'll hold it up what I got right now. So I knit about 2 inches on the body, and then I switched to his sleeves because I just want to see what the sleeves will look like. So you can see that the seam of the shoulder is really at the tip of my shoulder here, and then the sleeve. Yeah, you use short row shaping to really do the whole sleeve. You can see it looks really nice and clean. And you can see that lace pattern detailing on the sleeve. The only thing is that these sleeves will probably feel like they take forever to knit because I think I have to knit like 14 inches of them from like underarm down because it's not a drop shoulder. And drop shoulder usually cuts, you know, right here, so you have less space. And a raglan usually, I mean, I guess a raglan too, but because of the way the short row shaping is to form the sleeve, it's more sleeve than I'm used to knitting. But I'm really excited for how this will look. It's Sandnesgarn yarn, the Petite Knit Double Sunday, which is DK weight, and the colorway is 2542, which is brown. Yeah, lots of brown lately. Anyway, that's what I'm working on. I think it's just because of the gauge. So it is a tighter gauge than I'm used to for DK weight. Like I'm using a US 4 for my needle size, and the gauge is like 20 something stitches for 4 inches, which is quite a lot for a DK weight sweater. What is it? 25 stitches by 38 rounds. Usually when I'm using DK weight, I'm used to like 20, 21, 22 stitches. So I think because of that tighter gauge, it does make my hands hurt a little bit, especially as I'm knitting in the round on the sleeve. So I am finding that I probably need to take more breaks on the sweater, not like go at it the way I usually would to finish a portion of sweater. I probably need to limit how much time I spend on it per day so that my hands and my wrists don't hurt. So yeah, just something I am noting. And yeah, I'm really excited. I don't have a sweater that I believe that has this kind of shoulder shaping. So I'm really excited to eventually have it done and to wear it and see how I like it. Yeah. All right. Otherwise, that is it for what I'm pretty much actively working on. I'm still spinning away a lot of different things. I'm probably not going to show that right now because I'm kind of just spinning up odds and ends right now. And in other news, I also got a loom. Yeah. Aimee Sher has a web shop. Like she has a shop now, basically, online. And they sell a lot of things, like yarn, all their patterns. Actually, I really love the way their shop is set up online because you can look at the yarn and it'll tell you the recommended patterns that they would recommend using for that yarn. Or you could go the other way around. You can look at patterns and it'll also recommend what yarn they carry that they recommend for that. So it makes everything just so much easier. And they also carry spinning tools now and fiber, and recently they started carrying looms, specifically Kromsky looms, like the rigid heddle looms. So I might have bought one. yeah, I did buy one. I did set it up. Then I got a little overwhelmed with the warping stuff and put it off to the side. And when I have enough brain space, I will figure that out again. But yeah, I had told myself like a year ago maybe that I was like, no, you're not going to learn how to weave. You don't need another craft. And here we are. Yeah, and I remember saying the same thing about spinning several years ago. So I guess I am an example of never say never. Because probably when you say never, you're going to end up doing it. But for the weaving, I'm really excited because you can use up a lot of handspun for it, like odds and ends. You can use up, you know, any single skeins that you have lying around. It'll be a great way to use up stash. And I'm just excited to see, you know, I've always appreciated the way weaving looks. I just never really thought it was something I would get into. And for some reason, I always thought that you'd have to have like a floor loom to do it. But then Aimee started carrying these rigid heddle looms, and they were explaining to me that, you know, with certain sizes, it's just as good as a floor loom, and you could still even weave enough to make fabric to sew with, which blows my mind. Yeah, so we'll see. Maybe I'll have something to talk about in my next video about weaving, but we'll see. Yeah. All right, so thank you for tuning in. I'm sorry it's been so long, but it's really good to be back in this space, just chattering on and on about everything I'm making. I appreciate you for hanging in there and for coming back, and hopefully I will see you again soon. Bye!